Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Digital and Social Media Sports Podcast. I am your host, Neil Horowitz. You can find me on Twitter at NJH287, also on LinkedIn, where I post more content. The website, of course, is dsmsports.net, and you can follow along and subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast platform. So excited for today's show. You're going to love this guest. I enjoy talking to her. I learned so much from her. I always learn a lot from her. She's done so much good work in her career, and she continues to do good work now. My guest in the podcast today is going to be Amie Kiehn. She is head of community at Gondola. You're going to hear a lot about Gondola. You're going to hear about the Panthers. You're going to hear about social media strategy. You're going to hear about starting over in your career, as Amie's done on multiple occasions. You're going to hear some great stories about her past, about her time with the Panthers, about what they're doing at Gondola. I can't say enough, so make sure to stick around for that conversation with Amie. But first, this episode's helpful tool. And since it's a helpful tool, I have to give a hat tip, a shout out to Amie, because I am stealing from a thread that she tweeted out recently where she listed some of her favorite helpful tools. And so I figured, why not share them with this listening audience, because they are great helpful tools. There's a few here, so I'll run through them really quickly, and you can check them out. First is pixelhunter.io. That's pixel, P-I-X-E-L, hunter.io. And this is a pretty dang cool site. It's free, and it will resize anything you upload. If you resize an image, it'll spit out all the different sizes you could possibly need across social media networks. I tried out myself on multiple occasions. It is really impressive. It's really quick and easy, and you can go ahead and download your files, save your files, and you're all set to go. So if you're looking for a quick way to resize something so it's proper specs across social networks, check out Pixel Hunter. The next one is WordTune. This one I hadn't seen before. I use Grammarly all the time. I've used Hemingway as well when it comes to improving your language and how you're writing things. But this one is pretty cool. It's called WordTune. It's a freemium app, or it's also a Chrome plugin, and it allows you to type in some words, something you're trying to say, and it will give you other, perhaps more exciting ways to say it, or just different ways to say it. You know, especially in sports, we are using the same phrases or same storylines, same things over and over again, and WordTune will help you come up with a different, more original, perhaps more unique way to say it. It is freemium, so you get 10 rewrites per day. After that, you do have to get their paid version. But again, pretty cool. Check it out. It also has a Chrome plugin, which looks pretty handy. Next on Amie's list of helpful tools, because she is just full of great help for anyone in the space, is keywordtool.io. This is one that I'm definitely familiar with. If you've ever used any keyword planner, whether for Google or for search in general, even YouTube, there's some good keyword tools out there. This is a great way to see what people are searching for, and also the phrasing and wording of how they're searching for it. You know, especially my role right now in marketing and strategy with Greenfly, we are always looking at how are people describing these problems. How are people looking to drive, whether it's engagement through their athletes or moving the movement of content. And so it's really helpful to know what people are searching for, what is sort of quote unquote trending, and again the words they're using to do that. So check it out. It's fun just to play around as well, just to see how big a given topic is and how people are talking about something. So check it out, keywordtool.io, free to get some great search information. And the last one I'm going to call out from Amie's list is jitter.video. Exactly how you think it would be spelled, JITTER.video. And it is a pretty cool little tool to help you create motion content. If you're not adept with After Effects or other options out there, you can obviously do some stuff with Premiere as well. This is a pretty helpful tool to help you create quick, easy motion content. You can get pretty complex if you want. There's a timeline feature and all that jazz, and you can really create something pretty narrative, pretty extensive. But you can also create something really quick. You can use some of their templates that they have, whether you're looking for quick moving text, or you can upload your own content, of course, and make that move around a little bit. So this one's pretty good. Again, check it out. You can play around with it. It is free, freemium, I guess, because there is a watermark. If you're just looking to play around, there's a watermark when you download it. But if you upgrade, you can get rid of the watermark. So check it out, jitter.video. So one more time, just so you can check them all out: pixelhunter.io, WordTune, keywordtool.io, and jitter.video. And again, the thanks goes to Amie Kiehn, because this is all from a thread that she tweeted out to help out her community. Now we're going to learn a ton from her, and you're going to enjoy this conversation with Amie Kiehn, head of community at Gondola. back with our guest today, and I could not be more excited to be joined on the podcast by someone who's just so great in the space. I've followed her career for years, and I'm delighted to be joined by Amie Kiehn. She is the head of community at Gondola. Welcome to the podcast today, Amie.
Hey, I'm so pumped. I'm glad I'm here. Thanks, Neil.
We are going to have so much fun talking, getting to know you, learning from you. But before we get into the meat of our discussion, we want to hear your story. Tell us about where you came from, how you got involved in the space, developing skills along the way, and how you got to where you are today, and any tips for folks that want to do what you do.
Sure. So I grew up with three brothers. They're all older than me. And my mom always took me to all of their sporting events, all their games. I was really short. My mom's really short. My dad's like 6'3", and all my brothers are super tall. And I just remember my mom, to keep me occupied because I was a rambunctious kid, she'd be like, after every practice or game my brothers had, when I was like 6 or 7, she'd be like, I want you to give me a report after a game of like, your own little like sideline reporting. And I would do that. It would be my favorite thing after games. And I loved it. And so I pretty much knew since 6, 7 that I wanted to work in sports. I was not a gifted athlete. I had the heart of a gifted athlete, I would say. Like I loved hustling. I played basketball. I was like the sixth man. I, loved it. But not the talent wasn't there, even though I worked really hard. I worked really hard to be average, I should say. Right. So fast forward, I went to the University of Iowa where my brothers had went to school, and I studied sports journalism. And I was, one of the football writers for the college. And I was like, I think I want to do this. But I realized I wasn't really thinking about writing anymore. I was kind of thinking of like, what are some adjacent roles that are similar in sports? And that's kind of how I got knowing more about like the social side. I'd already had a Twitter. As one of the beat writers, they said, you got to get a Twitter if you're going to write. So I had already had fallen in love with Twitter. And it's kind of funny. Like my first official social gig was when I was going into my senior year of college. And I worked for Ashton Kutcher actually. And he had a production company in LA. And I cold emailed them one day from my university email account. And Ashton is very famous for dropping out of the University of Iowa after 1 year because he was scouted for being a model, extremely bright, was a mechanical engineer major. And I think I really feel like they thought I was his cousin. So I think that's why they accepted me, like they were like, when I got there, they're like, so you don't know Ashton? And I was like, I've never met him before, but he was the nicest. I know, like he was out shooting movies and then he'd come in and he'd be like, hey, do you want to order some pizza? And I'd be like, who is he talking to? He's like, you. I'd love to hear your story. And I was like, oh my gosh,
that's amazing.
So he's the nicest. I don't keep in touch. People are like, hey, can you get something to Ashton? I do not keep in touch with him, so I wish. But I do not. But
you were doing social for his personal, like helping him with his personal handle?
No, I was just working for his production company, which was at the time in 2009. I'm dating myself, but in 2009, Punk'd was really big, and he also was the first like celebrity on Twitter to get like 1 million followers.
I remember that.
That was like. Yeah, big deal. So he was really big on Twitter. So we'd like find things for interesting things that he might want to tweet about, or his production company had a lot of different web shows that we were involved in. And so I may have to send this to you, but my first, it's so funny. Like people like don't really believe me, and I don't really have any. I never took a photo with Ashton, so people don't believe me that I actually had this internship. And I went to one, like Ashton was co-hosting a party with P. Diddy on 4th of July. And there's this one picture that like Us Weekly or People Magazine posted, and it's Ashton like swinging above a pool, and like you can just see me right behind it. So there is photographic evidence. I was working the party. I wasn't at the party myself, having fun. That's but it was like a crazy experience to be at a Beverly Hills mansion with P. Diddy, Ashton Kutcher, like, and all these celebrities, Mariah Carey, like at 21.
That's great training too, to get into that mode where even when you're like should be freaking out because of how cool this is, like you gotta just be paying attention and like getting your video, getting your photo, or getting your tweet out or Instagram out.
Yeah. Well, I think ask your second part of like any advice, like what I tell a lot of people is almost every one of my career opportunities have come from like cold emailing people, like,
Yeah.
reaching out to people. And I know that's like not everyone's cup of tea. And I have sent so many cold emails, like when I was just starting out. And I just got lucky by all I really needed was a few yeses. Like, if you think of my volume that I did, I was like, I just want to work in sports or I want to work in social. Like I sent so many and that's how I got the Ashton gig. Like, my start back into, I did a little break. I was a teacher for like 4 years in Chicago,
Really cool.
through for America. And then I wanted to get back into sports and I cold emailed this wonderful woman who I know, of Kathleen Hessert, who had, an agency here in Charlotte that was, doing really big things in the space for like athletes, influencers before it really became like a big thing. Totally. She was handling PR, handling like crisis management. She was great. And I just cold emailed her because I remembered reading about her in a class in college. And she was like, if you come fly out to Boston and meet with me, and do this gig for me that I have over the weekend, like we can talk. And so I did. I flew out to Boston, met Kathleen at like midnight in the airport, did this weekend gig that she had. And after, she's like, if you would be interested, like if you move down to Charlotte, like I'd be open to like, learning more, seeing if you got the chops. And so I did that and I worked for Kathleen, and that's how I got connected with the Panthers, and how my time at the Panthers, I got connected to my new gig at Gondola. Like, so it kind of all worked out, but it took a lot of braveness, to just reach out to people and be like, okay, if they don't reply. So I think that's what I tell a lot of young people, that if they're willing to put themselves out there, like the universe will reward them with hopefully good things.
Totally. Yeah. I can speak from experience when someone cold emails me even, and I want to try to help them if I can, if I have a conversation with them. But even like the first thing I'll say is like, kudos to you for reaching out, for being proactive, for taking that first step. Like just taking swings is all that matters.
Yes. I love that. I'm going to start saying that more. I'm going to say kudos to you. I love it.
So tell me, like you mentioned that you spent time teaching for a little bit before getting back into the craziness of our world. So like, I think you said 5 years in Chicago?
4 years.
So like 4 years in the social and content space is like whatever dog years times infinity. So like, what was that like when you were like, okay, I want to get back into this? Do I need to make sure I'm caught up? Had you been working on honing skills all along? It's like, what was that like? Of like, okay, I'm gonna jump back in, but holy crap, there's all these new social platforms now. Like, what happened?
Yeah. It was rough. I thought I was going to be a teacher forever. So I had not been doing any side gigs, not been working. I don't even think I posted on any of my own social media. So that was new. Like, and I knew I had to kind of work my way back into the sports space. When I say that cold emailing stuff, like I sent so many people messages and no one would give me a former teacher an even time of day. Someone who had worked for Ashton Kutcher a time of day, like nothing. I got 0 responses. And it is kind of funny now, like some of those same, and I don't hold grudges or anything, but it is funny. Some of the people that had reached out to, because you remember people, they like now reach out to me and it's like, hey, I love your career trajectory. And I'm like, well, little did you know, you actually left me on read a few times, but as someone who gets a ton of emails, and I can relate, so I don't hold any grudges. It happens. People are very busy, but it took a lot to start over. But I think that's one of the biggest things that I'm really proud of myself, is I'm learning to be okay with starting over. Like I had, not to jump into head of some of your questions, but similar to teaching, I never thought I'd leave. Same with the Panthers. I never really thought I'd leave. I loved my time at the Panthers, loved what I was doing. But I realized it wasn't the best situation for my whole family, and for like what I needed to be, as like both a person, a mom, like a partner to my fiance. Like I just wasn't doing it all well, to be honest. I was struggling with that pull, and so I needed to kind of take a jump to do something else. And that was really scary, because I'm in now a space that like I know a lot about in the startup tech space, but like I hadn't personally been in. And so I was nervous. And I know a lot of people don't always talk about being nervous and like being honest like that, but I'm really trying now to remind people, like, and this is, I feel like I don't want to say calling because it sounds kind of like hokey, but like, this is what I would love to be more honest with people. Like, I'm someone who's been in the business. I'm 34, no shame in that, been in the business a long time. And I'm still like feeling like sometimes I'm like, I'm new at this too. I'm trying too. I don't have it all together. So I like to keep it real, because I think when I hear other people that I really respect in the business being like, yeah, I kind of struggle being a parent and also working the hours that I work, like it makes me feel a little bit seen. And that my story is not unique. Like there's not something maybe wrong with me. Maybe it's the industry that we need to fix and evolve.
No, totally. I think over the last several years across industries, but just in general, like we've all become more comfortable with and expecting to be vulnerable. Like it's okay. And then if you're not like able or willing to show that, then maybe you're hiding something, or maybe you're burning yourself out, and it's gonna come out eventually. And so I can totally see that being an important thing. And like as I think we've all also had that sort of imposter syndrome as well. Like, holy crap, I'm now in this new role or in this space, and am I good enough for it? So I can totally see that, and I'm glad that. And it's interesting that you've started over multiple times in your career now, and you've been brave enough to take those chances and take those risks. So as you think about like you had an idea of what you want to do in college, you had an idea of what you want to do coming out of teaching. Even before teaching, you had an idea. So when you start off with the Panthers and social, like, did you know, okay, I want to be the best content creator possible. I want to, hone my skills there, or I really want to learn the strategy side of things so that I can move up and become more of a supervisor or a leader. So like, how did you come in knowing what you were expected to do off the bat, and, knowing how you're going to grow into the leader you became there?
Yeah, when I started at the Panthers, I don't know how old I was, but I know I was in my later 20s. So for a lot of people, like especially if they've been doing social in college for a long time, they can start at like 22, 23 as like an assistant or coordinator in the NFL. And I think I was in my later 20s, like maybe 27, 28. So I was older and I started as a coordinator. That was my first job at the Panthers. And the reason I took it, my parents and my siblings and my fiance are like, are you sure you want to take something, like you've been like working up, like you've been getting up there. Do you want to kind of like felt like they kind of interpreted it as a little bit of like starting over again. And they're like, are you sure you want to do this? And I was like, yeah, I really wanted to learn from Dan LaTorraca, who I know a lot of people know on the internet. He was crushing it on social. Absolutely. Like hitting tweets were like grand slams every time. Like, and, he was so talented that I was like, yeah, I want to learn from him, and I'm going to start over a little bit again. So that's why I started at the Panthers, and why I wanted to work at the Panthers. Like, it's kind of funny. I haven't told this story in a while, but like I was living in Charlotte working for Kathleen, and I mentioned that I went to high school in like the Bay Area a little bit in Monterey, California. And I was like, I think I want to go back to the Bay Area. So my fiance and I moved to San Francisco, and I got a email from Dan LaTorraca after, like, as soon as I stepped off the plane in SFO. He's like, hey, would you be open to hearing about this gig at the Panthers? And I was like, oh my God. So, and I ended up, like, a few months later, I did end up taking it. And so we moved back to Charlotte. But and that just kind of goes to show you how much I really believed in Dan, and like really believed in, like, you know what, I want to learn. I really, really want to learn how to do this. And I feel like Dan was the right teacher. And then, a year after I started there, Dan got a new opportunity, and the Panthers were like, do we hire someone? Like, do we give Amie a shot? Like, we don't even really know her. She's only been here a year. And I was really lucky that they were like, yeah, a lot of people believed in me. They're like, she's ready. And so I took on as the manager and was able to help build like this new chapter at the Panthers and help start new careers for a lot of people. And I learned a lot, how to be a better leader, because I will admit I didn't start off as a good leader. I really had some pitfalls and things I had to learn. And I was really lucky that I had people kind of point that out in me, like difficult conversations, to be like, hey, this is some advice of how to be a better leader. So I felt like towards the end of my time with the Panthers that like things were really humming. Like I felt like I was creating the environment that I felt like a lot of the people on the content team like were thriving in. And so I was really lucky towards the end. And that's why like things with the Panthers, I feel like ended so well, because it was like, I was so excited for all these people to like have new opportunities, to have like create their new experience. Like after Dan left, like I was able to do. So it's like I'm cheering them on, and I really truly mean that. Like there's absolutely no ill will. I'm like so excited. The team over there is like just absolutely ready for their moment now.
And it's funny too that now, not funny, but it's interesting how like in your current role now, you get to cheerlead on a whole a global community of creators and creatives, which is super cool. So like when you think about, you know, how you talk about some of the challenges you face as being a leader and how you grew into that role with the Panthers, but how did you go about defining success? How do you know we're doing good here? I mean, yeah, you have your numbers you're trying to hit. You have your strategies. You also have the satisfaction level of your employees and hopefully keeping them healthy mentally and physically. So like, how do you ultimately define success and know, okay, we're doing this the best way, and maybe we need to change something up to do better?
Mm-hmm. I actually pulled something that I learned when I was a teacher, was a veteran teacher, had pulled me aside because I was struggling as a beginning teacher. I did a program called Teach for America. So my background wasn't in teaching, and they're like, but you're a smart person, you'll be able to figure it out. Like just put some coaching. And it was a lot of coaching that I needed. And I taught middle school. So it was even more like super fun. If you remember your awkward middle school years, I was super awkward. But a veteran teacher had told me that like when you can sense, especially as a teacher, like leading a classroom, if you feel like you need a reset, and have a reset with your class, is to talk to them, tell them honestly what you're feeling, and reset, and like then hold up to your new bargain. And if you have to do another reset, do another reset. So at the Panthers, I think that's what I started establishing. Like I often would be like, if I felt like things were like not grooving in the right way, I'd be like, all right, cool, let's all get together. Let's talk about it. Is there something that I'm doing? Is there a process that needs to be rehashed out? Like, is someone just kind of needs a break? Like, let's talk this out so we can fix it. And it's not that big of a deal. So I started trying to make those conversations happen often, as many times as we needed, to be like, okay, let's reset. Like, let's figure this out, and not to have things I think a lot of times people like let things keep going on. And I know I've been guilty of that for too long. And then it gets like way out of hand. You're like, whoa, we could have fixed this way back over here. So, that's a big thing of a leader for me, was like someone willing to call out, like, okay, it seems like either morale wise, content wise, just like the process of how we're managing projects, like do we need to reevaluate something? So I always was fine with reevaluating something, even if it was a process that I loved, and they're like, this isn't working. Okay, cool, let's figure out a new way to do this. And so I think that was the big thing. And then is learning. Another thing from teaching was I knew, I don't know why I didn't register, but as a teacher, I never taught the same way to every student, right? Like it wasn't like I wasn't a homogenous person that's like, this is the only way, right? I knew some students needed a little bit more attention. Some students were like, I'm good. You don't need to help me. Let me do my work and leave me alone. Didn't want to talk. There's some students that like, you really had to reinforce with positive affirmation, like, pep them up a little bit. So once I realized that, and how I led, and where I felt like I was hitting my stride, was when I was leading, where not everyone got the same Amie. Like some people just wanted to be like, hey, I'm good, approve my budget, let me go. And other people needed like some nurturing, which was fine because that's the type of leader I am. I always tell people like I'm a Pisces, I'm an empath, like I really care about people deeply. So that was a an easy thing to like click once I got it. And you said earlier of like I that's how I felt like I was being my full self is when I was leading and helping others. And so it was a perfect fit for Gondola when I was like, how do I take what I'm doing here at the Panthers and, magnify it on a larger scale and get to do that with more people? Like that to me is like the dream. So I'm really living the dream.
Yeah, and it's cool to think about how Gondola is helping to capture. It's not just the person that presses send, or it's not just the person that exports out of Adobe or whatever. It truly takes an army that to create something really special and really awesome. And you think about that from those of us who spent time on the team side or work with a team to execute an organization strategy, and there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen then, and someone might think, okay, I'm going to create this fire graphic and it's going to perform so awesome. But then you might look at it and be like, well, it doesn't really align with our brand strategy or what we're trying to accomplish. And there's so many, it's tough to have that cohesiveness and making sure that, yes, this is objectively a great piece of content, but there's also like, is it objectively a great piece of content in as much as what we're trying to do and what we're trying to accomplish? And you guys hit a lot of home runs with the Panthers, like so many, it's crazy. I can't even list them all. So when you go about trying to hit those home runs and trying to drive success, that it truly is aligned throughout the organization. What does that look like in practice? And what were some lessons you learned along the way? And how did you hit those square up those pitches? I love my baseball analogies.
I love them too. I think I said grand slams earlier.
Exactly.
So we just want baseball to be back. So what I think is, I know this keeps kind of going back to like, I've said like people first, but like, and that's the type of person I am, but I really do think it all starts with people. Because you can have the most talented videographer, you can have the most talented photographer, but if it's not a cohesiveness, as best as you can on a team level, especially on like a physical team, like like the NFL, it's just not going to work. So I think that how the Panthers got in our stride was a few couple things. Is we tried, not everything was perfect, but we did try to like have fun. Like a lot of things we would make content for, like did that make Brandon Johnson, our videographer, laugh? Did Carson Smucker, our videographer, think this is funny? Like did Angela on our team laugh at this? Daniel, like et cetera, Chanel, like, so a lot of like our content, we tried to like, if we kind of thought it was funny and like cheeky, like maybe other people would. So the first thing we did was like trying to stop being like, I want to make this badass piece of content, which is also important, but is just to try to have more fun with it. I think sometimes we can take things too seriously in the content space. And that's okay. At the Panthers and like how I always kind of like felt like our voice was something that like you could kind of poke fun at yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
So like we often would like make content that like maybe wasn't super polished and didn't always have like the most like pristine look. Like it was a meme that we saw. We really tried to have fun with it. If we laughed at it, if someone on our team thought this was funny, like we always try to send content. We had a Slack channel that was called the meme team, where like we would just send content all the day, like make ourselves laugh. We would make it. And I think that was the funnest thing of like how we had so many home runs, as we've been talking about the baseball analogies, is because we tried to have fun ourselves and like make our team laugh. That like then we had set the precedent that like, okay, like we're gonna try it. The Panthers team like always would hear me say this of like, okay, let's try it. Like, and let's watch the comments like hawks, like I always would post stuff, or like we would post stuff. I shouldn't say but I would always be like, yeah, let's post it. But like, let's immediately get the feedback from people. And if it's not a hit, let's just take it off. But if it is a hit, like, let's find out what did we do there that we can like try to capitalize again on. So I know a lot of teams like to keep like a beautiful IG aesthetic, and that's totally fine. Our Panthers brand was not following that. Like, we just wanted to hit you with the fun content. And so I think that's what we really create a safe, fun place to, I don't want to say fun again, but that's the word I'm coming up with. So
how did that work in tandem, or not in tandem, but in alignment with, your bosses, with with what everyone else in the organization is doing? Were you guys able to say, hey, we have a great idea and this is why it makes sense to execute, or even looking at like, we can have some fun and this is like our 20% of just like short-term stuff, or short form stuff that we can just poke around with, but with the stuff that we're going to spend a lot of hours producing, like, we need to really sit back and see how this aligns with how we're allocating resources, time, et cetera, et cetera. So like, ultimately, how much was it a director from top saying, here's our top line goals, now go for it however you see fit, versus being a little more micromanaging?
Well, I think I got really lucky with the ownership group that came in when I was there, which was David and Nicole Tepper. They, like, David and Nicole are like super personable. I don't even know why I'm saying David. I call him Dave, but they're so personable that they loved our content. Like, they would see stuff and we'd get a text message being like, oh my gosh, this was so funny. Or like, I love this, like, laughing, crying emojis. So like, our team really felt pretty empowered that, like, okay, if the ownership group is being like, yes, you guys are kind of funny, like, keep it up, then it really enticed us to kind of keep momentum. And obviously, like, when you are organically making fun content and you're hopping on trends that like make sense for the brand, like, it shows up in the numbers. And we had created such an established voice on social that people were like, oh, I want to see what the Panthers do. Totally. So it became expected that, like, we were getting great numbers because we were doing something that was like fun and different, and like, people really liked that. So we got really lucky, and Bill and Steven, who were our bosses for a good chunk of that, like, they were amazing to be like, hey, we have this idea, a little weird, but like, let us explain. And they'd be like, okay, try it. Like, similar to what I said, let's try it. Let's view the comments instantly and see, like, get that feedback from people. So we were lucky. And that's why I think the Panthers are like a special place where you have like an owner, and that's like, oh, I get this. I like funny things on the internet. So
what were your tips, or how did you have success getting the players involved too? Because you guys had some great content that certainly the players more than played along with.
Yeah. It's so funny. A few times, like, the Panthers currently, like, the stadium is where the players work out. That's their facility. And also where like the internal staff work. And a lot of times before COVID, when we would have moments like running each other into the parking lot, a few times it was really funny of like free agents were coming through and like seeing if they wanted to work with, come to the Panthers or come to another team. And I know, like, Gerald McCoy, who was being recruited at the Panthers at one point, and he ended up coming here. That I saw, we were at the same time we were coming by, and like Olsen and Keekly and all of them are trying to get him to come, and they're like, oh, this is the best social team, you gotta come. And awesome. So like, that was pretty cool to be like, okay, people really like that they think, like, players know, like, we're gonna have fun. So maybe it's like a little bit of a nudge to be like, we are a good place to come. So that's really cool. So and the players, like, I think because we often like made them look good, or like we're funny, that they liked doing content with us. So we had like such a great group of like content creatives, like I mentioned earlier, like Carson, Daniel, Angela, like Chanel currently, and Alex. Like, people want to work with them because they make them look good and they do good content. So it's fairly easy nowadays. So we're lucky.
I love that. Tell me, a few minutes left here with Amie Kiehn, head of community at Gondola. We have so much more to talk about. It was so much fun. How much did you not necessarily coordinate or work with, but pay attention to what other creatives or other social teams were doing in the NFL and other sports? How much was it of, hey, we're going to do our own thing and not worry about what other people are doing, versus, hey, that's a good idea, how can we adapt that? And also even just having those active conversations and learning from each other, that sense of community among all the social sports folks.
Oh yeah, I always looked at what other teams are doing. Like Megan Julian at the Chargers, like oh my gosh, chef's kiss, like what she's been able to do, and now she has like a whole squad of like an all women team, which I love.
Yeah.
I always be like, dang it, the Chargers, this is so good. This is so good. I wish I thought of it. And even like Zach Gallia, like at the Cardinals. So a lot of times I 100% always looked at what other teams did. And I would say probably early in my career was a lot of jealousy to be like, oh, we're gonna top that. We got to top that. And a lot more wiser in my years later on, I'd be like just excited that someone did something cool on the internet, like because I know how much work it takes sometimes even get things posted nowadays. You mentioned like approval processes, so like I'm like, oh, good for them. So and I think because I've been in the business now, even though it doesn't seem like that long, I'm only 34. I have been so almost 10 years now officially in the sports world. So it's been really like fun to like also be friends with people. So I'm in a lot of text groups where we talk through things of like, hey, has you ever happened to this before? Or like, ideas on this. So I like seeing other people have success. So I would say I'm now not jealous.
Totally. No, I'm still jealous, but I still cheer them on though. How do you see that playing out with Gondola? I mean, I think there's been experimentations with like, hey, let's all do a Slack channel or let's do a WhatsApp group, or everyone has their group chats with people they've worked with and they're talking about ideas or exchanging. Is that like, what's your vision for how you can connect all these people that are coming together on Gondola to drive that community, to drive that the cheerleading and also learning from each other? Yeah.
Well, I think just in case people don't know this.
Yeah, I was going to say, give us an overview of Gondola.
Gondola is a platform for people to organize, track, and take credit for the work that they do on the internet. Mm-hmm. So oftentimes, like, you see something go huge. We talk about jealousy, like that Derek Carr like run out for the Raiders this year. Like I saw that and be like, holy moly, how they do that, and also who did that. And Gondola is taking up space to answer that, where Ricky Witt, shout out Ricky, if you're listening, he was the person that was filming and edited that. Like he is able to take credit for his work on Gondola. So like if anyone were to take that link from Twitter or Instagram and they put it into Gondola, Ricky's name would pop up that like he was the editor and the videographer for that. So like one, we're trying to be like the IMBD of social, which is needed. And also like in hiring too, it's really great because as much as I love long Vimeo reels that are beautiful, sometimes I don't know what you actually did on those pieces of content, like as a hiring manager. So like, that's what's great now. I love with Gondola is I can know exactly what people did on a specific project. So that's the first thing about Gondola. And the second thing is what really drew me to Gondola, and talk about like my heart and mission is, Jared Kleinsing, who's the founder of Gondola, who's been very successful, like with his own production company called Fresh Tape, like, was at Vine leading Sports International, like RIP, like he's such a great guy, like one of the best. And so it already has good genes on it. Like, it has his DNA all over it. Like he really cares about the industry and the people. And the same thing for me is like, I feel like at this time, like, and I'm sure you can relate to this, Neil, and just seeing it on Twitter, because a lot of people are leaving the industry, like the sports creative industry. Like they're burned out, they're tired. People are feeling underappreciated, undervalued, and underpaid. Let's be real. So what I hope with Gondola is that we can kind of enter into this space to make people feel seen, valued, and heard. Get paid if they can. Like, there's so many more creatives that I've gotten to get to know through Gondola, because I've just seen their work on Gondola, and I'm like, oh, okay, like this is great. Or a lot of teams reach out to me like, hey, I'm looking for a social media coordinator for my team, like my team side on a big sports team. Do you know anyone? And I go right to Gondola, and I'm like, okay, let me find out all who's done social work before. So I think that's what I really love, taking what my heart of like, I really want to make this industry better and feel like more vibrant than it has been over the last few years. So to be able to do that with Gondola is like, I mean, I know people can't really tell, but I've been really smiling on this call
Mhm.
because I get to talk about things that I really care about. So, I thank you for asking.
No, it's super cool, and like I said, I feel like everyone knows a lot of people in the space, and everyone kind of knows each other a little bit, and we can learn so much from each other. And like that, even me, I'm if you think you're old, I'm Stone Age, like and coming up in the space. And I remember the first time I just like started calling up people on other teams and being like, "Holy crap, that was really cool to learn from each other." And like, yeah, we're competitive, and when like the league stats get sent out or whatever,
Yeah.
but we also deal with the same challenges and have the same issues and have the same successes and failures, and it's really cool to be able to learn from each other in that sense. How do you right now it's a gondola is more of you need to come and participate, like what is the future of getting I mean I'm trying to get it, like is there a blockchain not necessarily NFT but play here where like officially what everyone has created and trying to track that wherever it may be used across the internet. If their car video also then gets used on ESPN, on this platform, like is there a grand vision of, okay, we're going to be able to tell you everywhere your content got used, or really it's more like we can't think that big yet?
No, I think we are definitely thinking that big. Like, that's definitely something like the Web3 world. Like, I learned a lot about NFTs. I've been like just because I'm curious myself, like where we're going in this new world in the blockchain and how things are like even meta tagged on the internet. It's crazy. Like I'm so excited for what's coming. So yeah, I definitely think that's what we're thinking is building for the future. So absolutely, I hope we are able to do this at the point of like where you can know this is a video that you made for Oregon basketball and you can see everywhere it is. So I hope the internet's getting that sophisticated, and if it is, Jared will be on it because he's one of the smartest people I know in the business. So
No, it's super cool to hear, like, obviously how happy you are at your relatively new gig, and it's really delivering a service that's truly valuable both for the creators and for the people that are seeking to hire these creators as well. I've had enjoyed playing around on it, and you can also go down rabbit holes and just have a lot of fun and see some awesome content. But we're gonna have some more fun with you, Amie. We have so much more to pick your brain about. So we're gonna come back shortly with our shorts segment. The first episode of Shareable Stat coming up right now. Such a fantastic interview with Amie Kiehn. I love picking her brain. I love the energy and positivity that she brings, and she is just a gift to this community, and she does a great job as head of community at Gondola. We're gonna have some more fun with Amie, so stick around for that. But first, this episode's shareable stat. This episode's shareable stat comes from the metaverse, you could say, I guess, and that is about Nike Land. So Nike created their own quote unquote Nike Land, sort of a one stop shop where they have various activations inside Decentraland, which, if you're not familiar, Decentraland is one of the many metaverses out there, similar to whether it's Roblox or the Sandbox or others that you may have heard of. And Nike Land, the shareable stat is they had 6.7 million visitors to Nike Land, I believe, across 224 countries. So how is that? Well, it's been up since November. Their biggest spike came around the NBA All-Star when they had LeBron James make an appearance at Nike Land. And the point is really that no one really knows if 6.7 million is good. Now there's a tons of people going into Decentraland, so Nike Land didn't necessarily can get the majority of them. But the fact is that when you are experimenting and trying new things, you have to sort of create your own benchmarks, and you can estimate where you're going to get. You can and just try to always improve on it. And you also have to give a nod to the innovation. In the sports space right now, we're seeing some early movers, whether it's Manchester City, what they're doing with the quote-unquote digital Etihad Stadium. Of course, the NFL is doing some things with their VR game, and they've done some other things with Fortnite and various things as well. And the Atlanta Braves are probably one of the coolest things they're doing with the digital Truist Park. They're using the Unreal Engine to build that on their own platforms, a place that fans can go as their digital selves. It's almost like playing a video game, except you are just hanging out at Digital Truist Park and checking out all the activities there and the cool things they have going on. So again, it's just how can we continue to learn about these new things? The social media leaders of today, are often collaborating on the overall digital side, and metaverse and Web3 is sort of making its way into under the umbrella of these digital and social folks. And so it's really important to continue to stay abreast of what's going on and to not be afraid to sort of take chances and understand, what success could look like in that. It's not an easy question to answer. But Nike is obviously proud enough to give their numbers out there, and they've been doing some publicity around the success of Nike Land so far and reaching a diverse new audience that is hanging out in the metaverse. So that's episode shareable stat. Think about it, talk about it, have some fun with it, and again, that's 6.7 million visitors to Nike Land inside Decentraland. All right, that's episode shareable stat. Stick around because a lot more fun with Amie Kiehn coming right up. Right back from this episode of Shareable Stat, and I am joined once again by Amie Kiehn. She is the head of community at Gondola. Amie, I just enjoyed our interview so much. Are you now ready to shoot some shorts with me?
Yes, please.
All right. Hey, shorts are all the rage, whether it's TikTok, Reels, YouTube Shorts. So we got to play off as much as we can. Number one, though, tell me, this is going to be really, really hard. The most memorable content or campaign from your time with the Panthers.
I think the one we had the most fun with was our viral kind of dig at the Atlanta Falcons jersey. If you guys remember, it was really peak COVID quarantine. It was like in March, and our boss had given us like, hey, I want to make fun of the Falcons jerseys. It just dropped, and we're like, I don't know if teams do that. Like, do they roast other people's jerseys? He's like, yeah. He's like, come up with an idea by noon. So I went to the meme team and I was like, hey, we got to do something like this. And Brandon Johnson, our videographer, the video reply was like kind of saying that the Falcons jerseys reminded him of The Replacements, an Adam Sandler movie. Yeah. And he filmed the whole, it was like he kind of did a TikTok inspo, and he filmed it in his kitchen somewhere in Charlotte. And as soon as we posted it, it flew. Like, I think in the first minute, it was already at 3,000 likes or 3 retweets. Wow. And so I knew instantly, I was like, okay, this is going to go big. And I think it ended with like almost 60,000 retweets. So it was that was really cool. Just something fun. So random. And shout out to our boss, Steven Drummond, who was like, we're going to do this. So
that's so awesome. Like literally, hey boss, what's going on? Hey, I think we should make fun of this. All right, let's do it. Let's have some fun.
So random. Great. I love it.
And a great nod to what you said earlier in the interview about just having fun. And if it makes us laugh, it'll probably make others laugh as well.
Yeah.
Number two, I want to tell us about being a mom, having your son Trip, and what you've learned so far being a working mom, which is not easy, both in and out of sports.
Yeah. For those that don't know, like my son is like 3 now, and I actually gave birth to him like a little bit early. He came early, and I gave birth unexpectedly at 27 weeks, the night before our season home opener at the Panthers in 2018, and it was like a shock to have, like, I had never really heard of babies being premature before, and so learning, like, our son arrived at like 1 pound 3 ounces, and he had a long journey ahead of him, and now he's home. And I think it put a lot of perspective in life of like, I just really want to spend time with him. He's really funny. If anything, I can predict what he'll be like in the, as he grows up, and in the future is he's going to be the class clown, which I'm kind of nervous about, but he loves making other people laugh, and he's so dramatic, and he probably, as my fiance says, takes after me. So it's so exciting that even though he had like a really challenging start to life, that he is seriously one of the most joyful children that I have ever met. And so I that's probably why I really like working right now, like working remotely, working home, and I get to see him, and he comes busting open the door all the time when I'm on Zoom meetings. And Jared and our team on Gondola is so nice, like, hey Trip, like act like it never happens. So I'm really fortunate.
How did you find it when you were working on the team still, for the Panthers still? What, like, is it possible to have a work-life balance or have be a mom when you are working in the sports world and it's 24/7?
well, I definitely did it for 3 years. So I was able to make it work. Maybe not the most perfect situation, but I was.
Yeah.
And I honestly don't believe there can be work-life balance in how people imagine it in like
Yeah.
in the normal of like I do work 50% and I live my life
Right.
50%. Like I don't think that works. I think people in this time right now are like craving flexibility. And so I hope that in this new workforce that we could have something where both work and life can be flexible, and that you can finally probably hopefully maybe have more of an equilibrium. And I always try to remind people that like I like a pendulum a little bit, like some days it's going to be more heavy work, some days heavier at home, like, and as long as I think we have leaders that accept that, and we have leaders that also are parents, I think, but not I always like to preface it, just because you have kids doesn't mean you should have preferential treatment. I think all individuals should have, even if you don't have kids, like have as much of an equilibrium that works for you as possible. So
no, I love the idea of just having that, not being afraid to have that flexibility. And like, I remember, leaving the arena at like midnight or 1 a.m. sometimes, then coming back at 9 a.m. the next day, because that's when like the office day starts and that's when people are in the office. And it's just, you need to definitely find that balance there. And it's okay to come in at 12 the next day or something because you just worked a 13-hour day.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Number 3 for Amie, tell me the skill you've had to learn in your career so far that you found the most beneficial.
A skill that I have found beneficial, that's a great one, is if my boss listens to this, he's gonna laugh, is making I can't even say because it sounds bad. Like, I'm sorry, this sounds so, but making pitch decks. Those decks is a hard word. It can also be interpreted as something else sometimes when you say it, especially with my accent sometimes. But you can air that. It's okay, Neil. But yeah, pitch decks, I really had to learn how to do them a lot at the Panthers. And so I would say learning how to articulate all of your thoughts and ideas into like a PowerPoint is very valuable. So
Totally. No, I love that notion of, okay, we all have great ideas in our heads, but how do we explain it, articulate it, and then also how do we make it happen, turn it into reality? Like, such underrated skills, operations, and why being a good writer is so important, or like being a good explainer in some ways. How about if I were to ask you today, what skill do you wish you could just snap your fingers and be incredible at overnight?
Oh, Photoshop.
Yeah.
I hope Daniel Goldfarb, our designer, who I worked with for a long time at the Panthers, is hearing this, because I a few times have had to like, hey, I didn't want to bother him, so I would make something and he'd be like, you know what? I'll do it. I'll work on it.
Good job, good effort. Oh, I think we've all, I just want to like be an expert in the entire Adobe suite. Just boom. Like, now I know After Effects like the back of my hand. Like, yeah. Number 5, this is going to be another tough one. Tell me the most memorable game from your time with the Panthers, for whatever reason, most memorable game.
I would say the one that I was like, I wasn't at the game. I was working at the stadium because we weren't traveling at the time, the social team, but like Cam Newton coming back second time around, playing the first game at the Arizona Cardinals, where the Arizona Cardinals were really hot. This is like this past year, the Arizona Cardinals were really hot at the time. Cam came back, like he had an insane game. Like, it was like a movie. I was like, the whole time I was like, this is like a movie. I can't even believe this is real life. Yeah. So that was like one of the best games I think I've ever been a part of. And I loved it, even though I wasn't physically there. So
that's so cool. I can just imagine just having goosebumps watching that from the stadium. And actually, let's lead into this next question really easily. The Panthers player who stuck out to you most in regards to content collaboration. Who was like that person who's like, this guy kills it every time. This guy's always up for something. Like, who's that guy that sticks out of your mind?
Oh, no surprise for people who know me, but Greg Olson. I am a Greg Olson stan through and through. I love Greg. Not only does he know who he is, so he speaks up, speaks his mind, says whatever he wants. He's also extremely funny. And he is just an overall, like, he gets it. He's just someone that's like, hey, Greg, I need you for 2 minutes. He's like, great, I got it. Like, selfie video done. Overall, a fantastic person. So yeah, I would say Greg.
Good one. Super good to hear. And who knows, maybe he might be the number one analyst on Fox for Fox NFL games now that Reichman's gone. We have to watch out for that.
I hope so.
Coming toward the bottom here, Amie, tell me your number one piece of advice for people that want to work in sports or social media sports, and maybe relate back to what we talked about in our interview.
Yeah, I would say a lot of when I get like LinkedIn messages or Twitter DMs, and people like, hey, I'd love to break into sports, and I'm going to steal yours. First, kudos for reaching out now. I'm going to take that from you. But what I have typically said in the past is like, I think it's really valuable for anyone who's looking to do a new career path or even starting into sports is like, say what you want to do. Like, tell people what you want to do, because people like myself want to help you. But if you are saying that, hey, I want to work in sports, that's so vast. Like, is that operations? Is that data analyst? Is that marketing? Is that in the athletic training, like social? I have no idea what that is. So I have found the most people, when they tell me exactly what they want, I have a better idea of how to help them. Like, a few people that I've been mentoring, like, hey, I want to work in baseball and I want to be a team photographer. Great. I know exactly how I can help you, because now I know I can reach out to, baseball teams being like, hey, if you have an opportunity, this person's amazing. Like, they'd have a lot of talent, add to your team. I know exactly how I can help them, but I can't help you if I don't know what it is. And oftentimes I'm getting messages, like you said, a lot of the time, that it's like, sometimes you have to stick out. So if it's like, you want to work in sports, well, I can't differentiate you. But if you say like, right, I want to work in sports, I want to be a team photographer, I want to work in baseball, I'm like, great. I know exactly, like, when things come up, I can be like, hey, this person would be a great fit for you. So that's why I tell people, it's just, and if it's something you want to change, then change. You don't have to, like, just like how you get all nervous if you go to college and you have to be like, I don't know what my major is. Okay. Like, just pick something. And if you change, you change. Like, so that's what I kind of remind people. I'm like, if you want to change after, go ahead. It's okay.
Yeah. And I would say, like, also, like, do something that it furthers what you want to do or furthers your skills. So, I mean, long story short, like, I've, whether I've spoken at classes or whatever, and someone might hit me up to be like, hey, I saw this job opening at this place. Can you, like, put in a good word for me? I'd be like, yeah, I know the person there. I'm friendly with them, but I never worked with you. I don't like, send me some of your work first. Like, let me, I don't want to recommend you for a role if I don't know if I'm recommending someone good for this role, because then that's on me and on the person I know.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
That's the one that sticks out to me way too often. I get like those random, like, hey, I know, like, do you know someone there? Can you put in a word for me? I'm like, yes, but I need to know that you're a good person.
I need to know you.
Yeah. I like you personally, but let me make sure that we, that you're a good fit professionally as well. All right.
Soft plug on Gondola. That's what I love about recommending people, as in people can see, being like, okay, here's the photographer I want to send you. Also, here's not just a website, which is also so valuable, but here's actually what he has done, posted live on social, like his or her, like, work. So,
and that's like the perfect organic reason why Gondola exists, for sure.
I know,
among other reasons. All right, we have another hard question here, Amie. I come down there, visit you in Charlotte. What's the best meal to get down there, and where are you taking me? Where are we getting it?
Oh, that's a great question. I love Thai food, so I think I would take you to get tofu green curry. From Thai Taste, which is in Charlotte. It's also backed by Luke Kuechly. If you go there, you'll see he has a mini shrine bulletin board every time his name or pictures in the paper, they put it out there on the bulletin board. And I love Thai Taste. They're not on DoorDash, which is really disheartening for me because I have to, like, drive and go pick it up if I want it. But Thai Taste.
All right, we'll get some curry. That sounds good to me. Let's do it. You're on. All right, a couple quick ones here to end. Tell me the creator or strategist, whoever, tell me the person on Gondola whose profile we should go check out right now. Someone who, whether they joined recently and caught your eye, or someone who's just, holy crap, I didn't know this person was, and they're awesome. Who should we go check out?
Oh, there are so many that I have found recently. I really like, well, Billy Quach is obviously like Billy, so you should look at his profile. Like the whole breadth of his work is incredible. But I found some like really some hidden gems recently that are like just coming out of school that I really like out of Texas Tech. I don't know their names off the top of my head, so I feel really bad that I can't name drop them at this moment. So I'll have to link to them later. But their photography skills is unreal. I'll shout out Ricky Witt. I didn't know Ricky Witt until that viral Derek Carr moment, but like looking at his work, I'm like, I think he's just out of school a few years, and like he had the video capture of the year in sports so far, in my opinion. And that's like so cool. So I think he was an LCC with the NFL at the time, but I'll give Ricky a shout out. And also I'll give Lakia Brown. She's a content creator down at Gamecocks for the women's basketball team. And she's crushing it on TikTok. So those are my peeps.
I love it. There's so much talent out there. So much young talent too. Like what a time to be alive.
Yes.
All right, last one for you. Tell me the team besides the sports team besides the Panthers, whose social media we should all go check out today and why.
Well, OG, I would say Allie Brown at the Cleveland Browns. Allie Brown. Oh my gosh. Allie Raymond at the Cleveland Browns. She's going to laugh at that. She was goals. Absolutely. I loved what she's been doing. And now she's at GoFundMe, which is also amazing. You should check that out. But I would say, who I really obviously love the Chargers because I think a very similar style. But Devin Walker at the Grizzlies, the NBA team, so needs a lot of flowers. Him and the whole team there are so funny, like absolutely so funny on social. So I would say I think you should follow the Memphis Grizzlies.
I am definitely all about that. I'm randomly a Grizzlies fan, even though I'm from Southern California. So
that's funny.
Hell yeah. Let's go. I'll go follow the Grizzlies and root for the Grizzlies. All right, Amie, you kicked ass in your shorts segment. Now your chance to take over the podcast. Tell us your social media all-star to follow. Just tell us who they are and why they're worth following.
I would say this is an easy answer is Astasia Williams. So if you don't follow Astasia, I think her handle is like Astasia Will. She is one of the wisest people in the industry. And she worked with me at the Panthers, but I would say like I learned far and beyond more from Astasia than probably Astasia ever learned from me. She has been the greatest teacher ever for me. So I give her a lot of kudos. She really changed everything for me and just by being herself. So I really give Astasia she's an amazing truth teller, like visionary, like all those buzzwords, like she lives and breathes all that. So she's at Nike now. So it's really awesome to see her, her career on Twitter, obviously is something worth noting. Like, I think she has like 20, probably 30 plus viral tweets on the internet. But she is I don't often think people, give her enough credit for how much strategy she has. Like she's a great strategic thinker. So I would say Astasia, she's my all-star.
That's a great one. Yeah, I will second that. And it's been cool to see everywhere she's gone. You can see the effect. Like you can see like something gets elevated, and that's really cool to hear your firsthand experience with her. All right, Amie, how about you? Where can we find you as well as all things Gondola across digital social media?
Yeah, Gondola you can find on Twitter, Instagram. And our website is gondola.cc, like gondola creative community.ccc, so not com. And we're also on social on Gondola on Instagram and Twitter. And you can find me on Twitter. And I don't really like my Instagram is mostly stuff with my son, so you probably don't follow me there. But LinkedIn for sure. So and my name is spelled Amie, and my last name is Kiehm. So that's where you can follow me. But I do try to respond to messages if people reach out, especially young people. But I'm going to steal Neil's thing of saying kudos for reaching out, but please, if you reach out, tell me how I can help you, like, have an idea of what you're looking for.
And go follow Amie across the board, because if you go on Instagram and just if you see Trip and you see a smile, you will automatically smile, because it's the best smile I've ever seen. I love it.
He is a good kid.
And
Thank
definitely
you.
go play around on Gondola.
Yes.
What's also cool is that we talk about sports because this is just a social media sports podcast, but it's beyond sports. It's really creators across the board. So no matter
for
what,
anyone who makes stuff on the internet. So it's for anyone, art directors, makeup artists, like shop owners, like it's for everyone. So that's what's so fun.
Really, really cool. And you're getting involved right at the right time, helping the build community there. And just cannot thank you enough for coming on the podcast today, sharing your wisdom, your knowledge, your experience, and best of luck with Gondola.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Neil.
So great spending time with Amie. She is just phenomenal, full of delight and wisdom and insight, and truly sounds super happy at her next role, at her current role of Gondola. Gondola's a really cool platform and what they're doing, so make sure to check them out as well. And if you are in the space, get on there and help and start taking credit for your work and building your profile on there. And really enjoyed following Amie's career, and cannot thank her enough for coming on the podcast today. And we continue to learn more from her moving forward. But that'll do it for this episode of the Digital and Social Media Sports Podcast. Thanks again for listening. As always, I'm your host, Neil Horowitz. You can find me on Twitter, NJH287. We'd love to hear from you. On LinkedIn as well, where I post more content. The website, dsmsports.net. And the Digital and Social Media Sports Podcast is on your preferred podcast platform. So feel free to subscribe and check out some of the 200 plus previous episodes. Until next time, this is Neil Horowitz signing off for the Digital and Social Media Sports Podcast.